we had a gentleman come up, a tree guy, and from a good company, and he said that in all of the places he's going, Westchester, Fairfield County, this is the oldest maple he's ever seen. He thought it was probably at least 250 years old. This is kind of its baby. But there's a few other ones down there that have grown from it, which is nice.
The baby is not
It's pretty
young.
old, exactly.
That's a very old tree.
Oh, God. And that again, if that tree arrests him, I'll be like heartbroken. I mean, it's like, I've been here forever, you know?
Everybody wants to see the card. Yeah, we want to see the card.
Where is the garbage?
The front door.
That's the front door.
Oh,
What I love about this is so cute. It's so cheap. You get the bullet in the cylinder, and then
these are Archie keys. Archie's keys.
Archie's keys.
The note
These are
case.
pages.
Are there pages in there?
There's nothing on them. Did you bring your Aurora picture?
yeah, I did.
Mine's this big.
Oh,
Well, you couldn't bring it,
with the
could
What's
you?
yours?
business cards.
Mine is the orchids falling in the dark.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is good. One of them looked brand new.
She didn't new because we didn't want to use it. The other one. We'd rather have the one
Of course you want the
which is a little more.
You went up there to get
Yes, I went to Toronto. She went to Toronto. So you see, it's a little.
Anyway, we only have 2 bottles of wine, so somebody's getting a prize tomorrow. The overall winner for both we were actually going to give 1 prize for food and 1 for presentation, but we decided 1 person wins as a grand winner, and that's Kathy. So come and get a bottle of wine. You can have whatever you want. I have no idea which is which or what you can have whatever you want. So that's an overall grand winner. We have a presentation, which absolutely, I don't care what anybody says, went to Debbie for having a box of Darsh sausage which exploded when she opened it. And since you're not going to be here tomorrow, you can come and get your wine. Sure. Drink home on the way to New Hampshire tonight.
Oh, I'll wait till I get there. I'll be good and thirsty.
And for best Wolfean food, we decided that Jesse, who brought a Archie Stakeout corned beef sandwich on rye with bananas and Hershey's bars and clear, very skim milk, because she was afraid the milk wouldn't work on the train. So you'll get your prize tomorrow, Jesse, at front. You'll get yours. I just don't have another bottle, but you're coming to brunch tomorrow, right?
I am.
So good. Now we know you'll be there, but your prize will be waiting.
In Plot It Yourself, Amy Wynn is the culprit. Alice Porter is an accomplice in the early stages of the story. Is she one of the people that Amy kills?
No.
Correct. Only 12% of the people knew that.
Really?
And you think you've been wasting your time on
Wouldn't it be
frivolous things.
50-50 for...
All right, on the other side is a collection of questions that you could very well be getting wrong for the 2nd and 3rd time.
You really know how to put those.
Well, they were written by Henry, Temby, and Jonathan. Are either any of these people
Normal? No.
Thank you.
Anybody who walks around with a shirt that says "fooey" or "fui,"
Wee!
that's even worse.
This is
Younger brother. Much younger.
Liz Maroc McAuliffe, Rex Stout's granddaughter, who owns the house, and her much younger brother, Liz Maroc.
Well, we're very happy to have everybody here, and I'm glad it's such a nice day, so we could enjoy it. Not too much to say. I've lived here for 23 years. When I first came up here with my husband, And my grandmother had actually moved out at that point and was going to be selling the house, and he took a look around and he goes, well, why don't we live here? I'm like, are you crazy? Do you realize how much it's going to involve to take care of this house and the upkeep? Oh, no problem, no problem. But we were also very lucky because a gentleman by the name of Harold Salmon, whose father had actually owned this property and sold the property to my grandfather, was still alive at the time, and he had spent his entire life working up here and taking care of the property when my grandfather was alive. And we were very lucky to have him help us out for about 18 years till unfortunately he had passed away. But he, at that point, I'm trying to think how old he was when we bought it, 72, something like that. But he came up here 7 days a week, 8 to 10 hours, and he just did his thing, you know. We never asked him anything. And I think it was nice for him because he was here when my mom was growing up and her sister, when myself and my two brothers grew up, and then when I had kids. So that we were very lucky to have him around, so he helped us.
My grandfather was in Europe, and if you look at the Bauhaus era, if you look at the Art Deco, the Bauhaus era, this looks exactly like the houses that Gropius and some of the Art Deco architects built, and this is exactly like a replica of it.
Plus I think he kind of liked to be a little different. You know, he wanted to do something that was
But if you think about the 30s, I mean, building this in the 30s, would have been unheard of here in the United States.
Right.
Because they just didn't build houses like this.
We at one point had a professor from Columbia who came up who said this is on the East Coast, one of the earliest houses of this style. You know, to have built this in the 30s was very unusual. They just weren't building this kind of houses.
I never understood what he did when I was growing up. I remember him in his office for about a month a year writing, and that's really when he did it. He wrote up in his office for about a month.
And you never went up there.
Right. He ate cornflakes every morning for breakfast. He'd have one egg, in
his glass.
Yeah, in his glass. What do you call it? A non-cooked egg, a raw egg. And then he would eat his cornflakes, and I always have cornflakes still. So we were pretty close growing up.
Well, he would come out to the kitchen. I remember when I was little and we were living here, and he would come out and he'd stand in the doorway of the kitchen and he would say, "Oh my God." And then I was supposed to say, "Why was I ever born?" And I would say that. And then he would put his egg in, have his egg, sit down, have his cornflakes. I mean, he did the same thing every single day.
Every morning.
But he would always, if he was doing something and you went over where he would explain what he was doing, if he was working in the garden or when he had his iris and he was doing that. And he would always tell you exactly what he was doing and did you want to help and do stuff. So no, he enjoyed having kids around, I think. Yeah, he was very good with them. That originally, when he first lived here, was a chicken house where they kept chickens that they would eat on Sunday. But later on, when she no longer had her studio in the city, she kept all her fabrics and et cetera here. He wasn't into orchids. I don't think he even had orchids. Iris were his thing, which unfortunately we don't have too many around. He had them everywhere, but they involve a lot of work. And since when he was a writer, he never wrote in the summer. So for 3 months or the 4 months of the summer, he spent just doing things around here and gardening and doing all that.
The gardens. Did you put the peonies in?
No.
No, they
Those are the peonies, the daylilies, which unfortunately, thanks to the deer, don't look as nice. That's all his. Yep.
Because there were passages in some of Ruth's books about her arguing with him over the peonies. That he didn't like. He didn't like the peonies. He liked the irises. She had the peonies.
Right,
and why didn't you grow peonies? That's when I saw them there. I was wondering, did she sneak them in?
No,
Did you put them there?
he may have argued with her just on that brother-sister thing.
Until the end, right before he passed away, one of the things that he said to me is that one of the things he wondered was how long his books were going to survive himself, and he was very, very curious about that. So I think that the fact that he's been dead now for 27
He would be
years,
amazed.
he would be amazed that his books were still selling
happy,
and published,
very happy.
etc. Yeah.
He cooked right in this pit. He had a grill that he had made to put on top of it, and he used wood, newspaper, and then wood, and that's where he cooked chicken and steak. Probably every weekend all summer he would make it. He liked to cook outside. Yeah, he always grilled these like big 2-inch thick sirloin steaks covered with butter. He would take 2 whole sticks of butter, cut it up, and just melt it all over the top. And he was healthy, yeah. Walked up and down this hill every day, you know, felt fine. He had his cigars and his steaks and stuff, and he was very happy. Actually, most of those are my grandfather's books. He had built that to keep books on when there wasn't enough room, and I've Most of a lot of those books were have probably been there since he was here.
I wondered what happened to his own personal library.
In all honesty, most of it was still on the shelves. And this year, when we first moved in, I painted his office upstairs. And 23 years later, this year, I just repainted it. So I took all the books off, and in order to make room for some books I had, I packed up all. So just now, in the last few months, his have been packed up, and we just have them in storage. The cat's name is Lolly, and has spent its entire life in this room. All 10 years, and never, once in a while in the middle of the night, you'll see it walking around the house, and that's it. It just stays back here. Goodness only knows why, but it does. Probably my grandmother would be my guess, because that was definitely her kind of thing to do. This was his office, which, as I say, originally all these shelves in here everywhere were, now those are original copies of his books, which I have up there, but all these shelves were filled with his books. This is his desk, which I still use, and next to it used to be a stand with his typewriter, which my aunt has a typewriter now. I think last time we did this it was still here, but she wanted it. She was redecorating her office, and she wanted it in her office, so she has it. But this was where typed all his books and did everything here. This file cabinet was actually his file cabinet. These little things in there are from him. I just kind of left them there. I like them, basically. And he made both this desk and that bureau dresser, whatever it is that's over there that he kept. Yeah, it's a little squishy, guys. Sorry. Kept things in. Yeah, it is. It's great. His stuff is all very basic kind of stuff. So. Really kitty. Very cool. So that's a picture of this corn. And actually, he had there. It's fine, but I remember the last couple of years we lived here, he had problems with raccoons in the corn. So first of all, he put a big electric fence around there, and then he and Harold used to take times sitting outside the garden house with a shotgun because he got so mad they were eating his corn, and they would shoot the raccoons. It's like he was so annoyed after all that work. He said everyone should believe what they want to believe. He was brought up a Quaker. But she was much more into all that kind of thing. I don't know that she was really religious, but she enjoyed reading about the different religions and learning about them and everything. Actually, that's kind of a good picture you can see in building. Yeah, he basically had 25 farm boys that came up here and helped him build the house. And they built it.
He was the architect, and he did it.
I think he had someone design it for him, but he, did the actual building himself.
Was he living in the city before that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we should check with my mom, because I think, and during the war, they lived in the city too, because they couldn't get enough oil or whatever, so they closed the house down and they lived in the city during the war. But then other than that, they were up here the rest of the time.
Is his typewriter here?
No, unfortunately, my aunt absconded with it. She called one day and she said, Liz, I'm redoing my office in California. I would really love to use that typewriter to decorate. So I was like, I guess I really can't say no since she is his daughter. So I should to it. It was here before, but you're going to have to go to San Diego to see it now.
Yeah. You were 2 or 3, very precocious, and I got aggravated about something. And he said, "Stop treating her like a 2-year-old."
He built all of that. That piece of furniture he built, and there was one other piece that was here that was tall that my aunt now has in California that he had built. So all that is all built in by him. And this is unbelievable. Originally it was a pony barn because one of my grandfather's friends had given my mom and her sister a Shetland pony as a present. So they had a little pony here.
Dad had a friend, Jake Baker, who came up every October, Labor Day, and would bring animals, much to Dad's displeasure. And he brought a huge tank of fish one year, and one year he brought a Shetland pony. Of course, Dad was delighted. And so they had to build a pony barn. Yeah.
Any kind of livestock
Yeah.
is not gift to give
They had been friends for 40 years or something. So Dad bitched and complained, but we kept the animals, dogs, all kinds of things they brought.
They kicked Becky in the mouth one day. Well, I think it's probably more Becky's fault than the horses, but usually isn't in cases. But so she has kind of a lopsided smile, which she has had since then.
What's it used for?
Believe it or not, we have a gentleman who lives there now. all those pots are his pots that he had. That poor table that's getting pushed down back there was actually, the yellow one was actually would have been in the kitchen, in the middle of the kitchen way back when. And I think somewhere, I don't see it now, so we even actually saw the sink that was in the kitchen back here somewhere. But a lot of these baskets, the kind of ones that look sort of old, were his baskets that he used. And all this stuff. It's stuff like this that I keep, and I think, I don't know why I keep it. It's been here all my life, so I just leave it there, you know? I think I would miss it if it wasn't there, basically, so I leave it there. And most of these tools, I would say 3/4 of the tools we have here are his. We still use the same ones that he used, yep. This is laid out this way. Ruth's garden is very...
Freeform.
Exactly. Ruth was much more freeform. She laughed at him about this, you know. She was like, she would go out, he would like, you know, do rows with strings to plant. Ruth went out with the seeds and went like that. Just a whole different way of thinking. But there's one of these trees, I don't know if it's this oak tree or there's another one further down, that he would sometimes sit under and type some of his stories early on.
Yeah, I think that album, there are pictures of him sitting
Yeah,
under
isn't
the
there?
tree.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, as I say, I'm not positive which one it is. Arguing about the Vietnam War quite a bit. And when we used to have company, inevitably there would be a discussion, an argument about it, and my grandmother hated it when they argued. So the minute someone would say something about Vietnam, she would start singing, which of course would irritate him to no end. And she would just continue singing until they would stop talking about it because she didn't want to hear about it. So he wasn't too pleased about that, but he had very vocal views. And he used to sometimes, like, there was a senator from Connecticut, Abe Ribicoff, and several others, he would have fundraisers up here. So he was always very involved.
Yeah, well, we lived in New York during the Second World War
Oh, that's
for
right.
3 or 4 years.
And then, like, where'd you live in the city?
86th Street, Queen
On the-
Madison,
on the east
Lexington.
side?
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. But did you go to the city a lot? Because I would imagine they were both attracted to
Yes.
hanging out in the city.
Yeah, we went to Broadway plays a lot. Yeah, we went in quite a bit. And we had snows. I mean, they were halfway up the windows there.
Wow.
But we didn't get snowed in a lot. There seemed to me to always be school. It wasn't like today where they call it off if they're going to have an inch.
Today's kids are
Yeah, exactly. And we had a wonderful plow made of wood, a V, with a bench, you know, a place you could sit. And Harold would bring a couple of horses up. And that's when I was growing up, that's how we plowed the road. And of course, that was, to me, was a treat, which I thought was going to go on forever like a damn fool.
Yeah.
My father's mother and father lived in New York, Riverside Drive. Yeah.
The wilds of Riverside Drive.
Yeah. No, we've got some wonderful pictures of the whole family on the stoop with, you know, the big hats and and all that. Dad has a derby.
So he wasn't the only one to move east then? Okay.
Oh, no, they all came east. Very welcome. Thank you for coming.